Introduction. Meeting the adversary. There is no Satan. There has never been a Satan. Yet few figures have wielded more power over the human imagination, shaped more laws, justified more violence, or inspired more art. This paradox lies at the heart of Satanism itself, a tradition built around a symbol that gains its meaning precisely from its absence, its impossibility, its function as pure negation. Satan is the ultimate cultural construction, a figure assembled from fragments of ancient Near Eastern mythology, early Christian paranoia, medieval theatrical imagination, and modern psychological rebellion. To study Satanism is not to hunt for devils in the darkness, but to examine the mirror that societies hold up to themselves, the perfect reflection of what they claim to reject, fear, or transcend. The figure we call Satan began as Ha-Satan, the adversary, or the accuser in Hebrew texts, not a cosmic enemy, but a member of God's court whose job was to test human virtue. Somewhere between the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, this prosecutorial angel transformed into the prince of demons, ruler of hell, and eternal enemy of divine order. By the medieval period, Satan had acquired horns borrowed from Pan, a pitchfork lifted from agricultural workers, and a theatrical presence that made him the star of mystery plays across Europe. The devil, it turned out, had all the best lines. But this is not a book about theology. It is about what happens when a symbol breaks free from its original context and begins to live its own life in human culture. Satan has served as everything from a projection screen for social anxieties to a rallying cry for artistic rebellion, from the scapegoat for inexplicable evil to the patron saint of radical individualism. Modern Satanism, whether the theatrical atheism of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan or the self-deification practices of contemporary left-hand path traditions, represents not devil worship but symbol manipulation, the deliberate wielding of culture's most potent signifier of transgression. This is the genius and the trap of Satanism. It can only exist in opposition. Remove Christianity, Islam, and Judaism from the world, and Satan vanishes with them. Satanism is perpetual rebellion without the possibility of victory, eternal adolescence elevated to metaphysical principle. It is the shadow cast by monotheism, the dark double of revealed religion, the necessary other that gives orthodoxy its shape and meaning. Yet dismissing Satanism as mere reaction misses its genuine insights into power, autonomy, and the construction of meaning. The Satanist asks uncomfortable questions. Why should suffering ennoble rather than embitter? Why should the flesh be denied in favor of the spirit? Why should individual desire bow to collective good? Why should we worship what claims to have created us without our consent? These are not trivial provocations, but serious philosophical challenges that have animated thinkers from William Blake to Friedrich Nietzsche to contemporary feminist theologians. The story of Satanism is also the story of moral panics, cultural scapegoating, and the ways societies project their anxieties onto convenient symbols. The witch trials of early modern Europe, the satanic panic of the 1980s America, the ongoing moral outrage over heavy metal music and horror films, all represent moments when Satan became a vessel for fears about social change, sexual liberation, youth culture, and the erosion of traditional authority. But perhaps most importantly, studying Satanism reveals something essential about the nature of religious and cultural meaning itself. Satan exists only as a sign, never as a presence. He is pure symbol, which makes him infinitely malleable. The medieval peasant's horned tormentor, the romantic poet's tragic rebel, the LaVeyan Satanist's carnival mirror, the black metal musician's aesthetic provocation, these are not different interpretations of the same entity, but different deployments of the same cultural technology. This is what I mean by the devil's mirror. Satan reflects back to each culture exactly what it has invested in him, but always in photographic negative. Christian medieval Europe, obsessed with purity and hierarchy, imagines Satan as filthy chaos. Puritan New England, terrified of female sexuality and folk wisdom, projected these fears onto witches making pacts with the devil. Consumer capitalist America, anxious about its own materialistic excess, created a satanic panic around ritual abuse and corrupted innocence. Contemporary digital culture, drowning in irony and performance, has produced an internet Satanism of memes and trolling. The most sophisticated practitioners of modern Satanism understand this perfectly. They use Satan not as a deity to worship, but as a tool to think with, a way of illuminating the assumptions and hypocrisies of dominant culture. They practice what we might call applied semiotics, the conscious manipulation of cultural symbols to produce philosophical, aesthetic, and sometimes political effects. This book traces that manipulation across centuries. From the first moment a human being looked at religious authority and said no to the present moment, when that no has become commodified, digitized, and endlessly reproducible. It is a history of rebellion, but also of the limits of rebellion. It is an archaeology of transgression, but also an anatomy of how transgression gets absorbed and neutralized by the very systems it opposes. Above all, it is an invitation to see clearly. Satan may be the father of lies, but the lies he tells are often more revealing than the truths his enemies claim to possess. In the devil's mirror, we see not supernatural evil, but human creativity, not cosmic rebellion, but cultural negotiation, not the face of ultimate otherness, but our own reflection, inverted and unrecognizable. The adversary is waiting. Let us meet him properly.